Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, actually. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to another episode of Unboxed Live. I am your host, Rob Gagne, with Nate as well, and we are talking to Ryan, who, if you don't know anything about Cigar Smoking World Championship, you're not alone. It sounds ridiculous. Hey, Ryan, thanks for joining us. Ryan here. Thank you so much for joining us, buddy.
Great to have you.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I got to set the stage here because Cigar Smoking World Championship, as I was telling people that I was going to go and film this, they were like, so how exactly does that work? And so for our viewers out there, what I really want to do is say, get in here and start asking questions, because there's all sorts of questions that people are going to have for you, Ryan, for just in general, what the heck is this competition all about? If you don't know what the competition is about, go back to our YouTube page, watch episode 1 and 2. It's really good breakdown of like what it takes to get into the competition from a semifinal perspective. And then here we're going to have an interview with Ryan, who went to the world finals in Split, Croatia, and actually competed. And that was like totally different. It was on a yacht. You had a bunch of different things you guys were doing. Yeah, I mean, $200 bottles of Regal. I mean, everything was like, it was crazy. It was great. It was a whole different lifestyle, isn't it?
It was an incredible time, but yeah, it was a bit of a shock just in terms of, normal everyday kind of living and then being out there and just 3 days of just a phenomenal time with great people.
Pure luxury is what we call it.
Pure luxury.
Yeah, exactly.
Did they actually helicopter in a case of, or like a crate of champagne? Did that actually happen?
That actually happened, yes.
Smokes.
I think it was.
I don't know if it was Uber or Lyft or who did it, but yeah, there was a helicopter delivery of some Chivas and some other champagne and some treats.
Wait, that came from like an Uber or a Lyft?
No, I don't know who they did. But
What?
That was the joke going on, is that they had, that's how they do Uber out here.
Oh yeah, helicopters, no problem.
Yeah,
you'll be
They
fine.
just call it chopper.
Oh, chopper.
Mm-hmm.
Chopper. Yeah.
Hey, when's your chopper coming? Jeez,
I'm hungry. I need some Jimmy John's.
What is the rate for when, what is the spike rate that they call for Uber? Like,
oh yeah, what do they call
called?
that? Oh crap.
What is that called? Do you remember,
like
Ryan?
when it's high demand?
Yeah, when it's like high demand for Uber, they call it like some sort of spike rate, like everything goes up.
Absolutely.
Just when there's a game going on downtown, it's like, oh shoot, it's going to cost me $100 just to get back out of the city. And it's like, what's the spike rate on that?
On the helicopter?
Yeah, like helicopters are a little busy right now. Your fare is going to be 9,000, Jeez, bummer. I was hoping to get it for 5.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, let's get into just breaking down for those of you out there. Hey, Richard, thanks for checking in. Sweet checking in. Sweet. That's awesome.
From Sweden.
Really?
Yeah. Sweden.
Whoa.
Checking in.
Sweet. This is awesome.
Fantastic.
Welcome. I think that's like our first international.
I think so too.
Listen, I know. Home of the world champion right now. So,
dude, home of the world
right?
champion. Awesome. All right, for those of you, just go back and watch those videos. I spent a lot of time editing them. No, actually, Matt did. Just kidding. Matt spent a lot of time editing them. They're phenomenally cut. They explain everything. But for the simple rules of like, let's just break it down simple. There's a lot of rules, but a lot of it revolves around when you might do something and the penalty minutes that you would incur. So let's just go through the quick rules. You got one cigar. It is tiny, and you're supposed to get as long as you can out of it. So now you get to cut it, and you get to test draw it, and you get to see if you want this cigar. Okay, we want this cigar. We're good to go. Tiny little, this is all of 9 centimeters, right? It's like over
5.125 inches,
like
something like that.
Just over 5 inches is nothing to balk at. The ring gauge is ridiculously small. I think it's 44. There's not a lot of burning going on here. You get 2 matches. These are the wrong matches. I didn't have the long ones, but guess what? I got, whatever.
We'll make do.
There's no regulation on how long the matches are. Although everyone at the competition gets the same length of matches, there's no like
about
actual
that long? Ryan, are
regulation.
They about 3-4 inches?
Petition.
Yeah.
Marco,
some of the U.S. ones had the shorter matches, but at the Worlds, they had the long style.
Sure.
Right. So I petition that they decide the length, because you could cut it down or whatever, just like make it standard, right?
Sure.
We're competing here. Everything
Absolutely.
matters.
It's got to be the same everywhere.
Single centimeter, inch, whatever you want to call it matters. And then you get 2 matches and 1 minute to light it. So if you watch one of the videos that we cut, there's very interesting different techniques on how to light it. And I'm going to try one of those where I'm only going to try to light the corner.
Or are you going to do gyms?
I'm going to do gyms. I'm going to try to see. Is this thing really going to take off? Because
Austin Jimmy had some moves. He had some moves.
Dude,
right? I know. I almost was going to do that, but you try that.
He had the moves. Yeah, we can both try it. Ultimately, it's very risky because it's only lighting a corner of it and letting this is a Mexican San Andreas wrapper, so it's got a lot of oil in it. And Jimmy said he did this. I'm not going to ruin it. Just go watch the video. Anyways, let's get into lighting these cigars, seeing what happens.
All right.
Oh man, my match is almost out. This is burning. Fingertip burning.
It's harder than you expect.
You know what? This was, for a lot of the guys that I interviewed, this was the one thing that they were most worried about.
All right, so I got Jim's corner. Do I leave it there?
Oh, you can't blow on it. I just blew on it like a freaking amateur. What the heck?
That's against the rules.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, way against. I would be like disqualified right now. God, that is really hard. How did you not blow on this? Like, I'm so used to just blowing on a cigar typically.
All right.
Yeah, it's just second nature.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, just get this going a little bit.
And that's the thing too. Like usually, a lot of people using matches, they might put 2 of them together and strike them and do that. But if you go that way, you only get 1 shot.
Dude, I got Jim's corner going on too. I'm like ridiculously horribly lit. I don't know if you can get this in there. Like, it is so bad. Like, if you were looking at this, you'd be like, dude, do you even know how to smoke a cigar?
So I got the whole thing going.
You got
here.
the whole thing going? No,
yeah.
I only got like half of it right now.
So I'm gonna have to take it easy here.
All right.
And we have 41 minutes?
40 minutes until you can
40
ash.
minutes. Yeah.
Yep.
40 minutes.
God, this is a tasty cigar though. I'm not lying, man. I actually really enjoy this cigar. This blend, it rated over 90 from Cigar Journal. It was really, really good. Ryan, I got to ask, before you even started the competition, because you had to pre-qualify in Buffalo, New York,
Yep.
where Buffalo Cigar Company, you work there part-time. You're there right now, right?
Yep.
Shout out to Buffalo Cigar Company for hosting a semifinal. They paid for part of your ticket to get to the World, so we owe them a big respect of just like being a part of this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Glenn and Paulie have been great here at Buffalo Cigar Club, and when we hosted the event here, they were really excited to do that, and we had a really good turnout here. I think we had almost 30 people at our qualifier that competed, so it was a really great time. And then, like you said, the fact that they contributed and helped with the travel expenses and everything to make this possible is just means a lot to me, and it's just 2 really great stand-up guys, so couldn't be more thankful to them.
Cigars are such a great community. I love that.
So cool. I'm still totally freaking out about this light. It looks just horrible.
I'm gonna have the hardest.
It looks disgusting. Like, it's half lit. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm buying time.
You're right.
I'm buying time right now.
So I know for sure I got way too much going here already.
Yeah, dude, you are power smoking that sucker.
And I've only puffed like 3 times.
I know. It burns.
Now, when I lit mine up, I always did a full light. I didn't try Jimmy's trick or any other tricks. I was so worried about it, just making sure that I had a good starting light, that to me, I probably sacrificed a little bit just to do that, but I didn't want to have any situation where I wasn't confident that cigar was going to burn well.
I got a nice even burn, so I'm happy about that.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, holding a cigar like this to not let the ash fall is so against my nature in smoking a cigar.
I know.
Because I just don't give two craps about keeping an ash on a cigar.
Look at this. Can you guys see this?
It's going.
It's ridiculously bad though. Like it's halfway lit. It's just I don't know how Jimmy does it because I'm trying to suck so hard to like make sure it doesn't go out. I'm so fearful of it going out right now.
Yeah,
that
it might do
everything. That. Anyways, Ryan, when you heard about it, were you like, yeah, I'm in, or did it take some convincing? Like, what was your immediate reaction when you're like, this sounds ridiculous?
When I heard about it, I was excited just because I had heard about the Cigar Smoking World Championship a few years earlier. One of my favorite brands out there, Cazdagli, they work with Club Mareva hand in hand for a lot of cigars. And the fact that I knew about the guys at Club Mareva, I had heard about the Cigar Smoking World Championships, but I didn't think, it wasn't happening in America. I'd never considered it something I would try to get involved in. So when I found out, oh no, they're hosting a qualifier event for this thing at the lounge you work at, I'm just like, well, I got to throw my hat in the ring because I work here, and at the time, not too many people had signed up. So I'm like, well, you got to represent and make sure some of these seats are filled. So, I bought a box of the Marevas and threw my name on the list. And I had not smoked a single cigar before then with the intention of trying to smoke it as long as possible.
So you bought the box of Marevas and you didn't even practice before the semifinals?
Didn't have time. We were just getting up to the point where our wedding was the week after the qualifier.
Oh my God.
Just the amount of stuff that was going on leading up to that in the month, I had bought the box and threw my name in there, and then I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to have time for this. I had to work out the schedule just to make sure I could even come out that night. And
you got a wedding going on. Your wife is not going to be like, yeah, go spend a couple hours trying to smoke a cigar slowly.
Yeah,
exactly. That is exactly what we should be doing 4 days before our wedding.
Yeah. You light that cigar, I'm going to light you on fire. Yeah. I went through that wedding stuff, man. That's no joke.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
How long have you guys been married now? Has it been 4 or 5 months? So it was August 22nd, so a little over 2 months. And then we've been together for 8 years though. So it's been a long. Well, congratulations.
The ironic thing is I actually spent a lot of time talking to your wife during the competition. It was hilarious.
Yes,
I had no idea that he was going to win. And I'm just like, trying to pass the time while these guys try to slow smoke a cigar. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do this whole time? I'm going to smoke my own cigar, eat some more food, hang out, talk to people. And I ended up talking to your wife quite a long time. And she is just a great person. Really fun to talk to. Very cool opportunity. Anyways, so you didn't practice. You just signed up. What was the first competition like? Were you just did you have any idea what you were going to do? How long did it go for? How long did you end up smoking the cigar for?
So when I start off, you read all the rules and you're trying to figure everything out. And then at that point, when it's you got 2 matches to light the cigar. I think the first match I lit, it went out right away. And I was like, oh, come on now. So second match got it going. And at that point, really, I was just kind of keeping an eye on the timer and thinking to myself, well, I'm just going to take a nice puff that really kind of establishes that cherry on the cigar. And then I'm going to wait, 2 minutes. Okay, well, next time I'll wait 2 minutes and 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Just kind of space it out further and further and see how far I can stretch that time in between reestablishing that cigar where it's lit and happy again. So
were you looking at your watch or were you counting in your head?
We had the official timer for the event up on a screen.
Gotcha.
And it was the same thing over at Pittsburgh and in Croatia. So that was really all I had going into it. And it ended up being just a crazy time where it's we had 5 people go out within 5 minutes, I think. Just because one guy lights up a cigar and he's just too busy talking to the guy next to him and didn't even realize. And it was a good time. We're all friends. We know each other. So we were all joking around and laughing. And, once it kind of got to that point where you're an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes in, a lot of people drop off and you're left with just 3 or 4 people who are having a bit more success or have a strategy that's paying off a bit more for them. Some of the guys I know that competed, they had bought the box and they smoked a bunch of them.
And then when they sat down to do the tournament, there's a lot of luck involved with the cigar you end up smoking. There are some cigars that feel great in the hand and burn terribly, and some cigars that, you pick them up and you assume that, oh, this is overpacked, it's going to be an issue, and it's just, it works to your advantage. So, that luck of the draw just with any handmade product like a cigar is kind of, there's a lot of fortune involved with having a cigar that really does a good job and allows you to stretch out the time.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, obviously they're rolling these and the restrictions, I'm sure this was, God, that thing is smoldering pretty good. I'm sure this thing is heavily regulated, from the rolling perspective, a little more attention to detail. But you're absolutely right, Ryan. There is this limit of, it's a natural product. It just is what it is. There's always going to be this variable. But the nice thing is that variable is pretty much, we're trying to even it out between everybody as much as possible, right? So it is what it is. If you're anything like me, you half lit the cigar and it looks like a dang canoe going on over here. God,
that's what I was assuming would happen. Like, I don't know how Jimmy did it. When I saw Jimmy doing that, I'm like, well, if I try that, it's probably going to canoe exactly like what you're dealing with. So
it's totally canoeing. It's smoking like a banshee because it's just
your ash is sort of curving.
Oh God, it looks horrible. This goes against everything I think of as a cigar smoker. Nice, even, light, get all of the binder, filler, wrapper, flavor. Like even right now,
it's a really tasty cigar.
Not mine. I got half of it going over here. I'm not getting the full flavor. Of course, there's many challenges. Oh, we got a question out there?
Woo! Mark F. So at the start, everyone strikes their matches simultaneously? Question, is that the only control for the start of timing?
No. Mark, to answer your question, when I interviewed Boston Jimmy, he said he waits 20 to 30 seconds till he lights his first. You just have 1 minute.
1 minute.
You can do whatever you want with those 2 matches in that 1 minute. But if you don't get your cigar lit, you're screwed. So you dictate. Well, he would burn 20 minutes. And like Ryan, when you said like you lit your first match and it went out, that's what I was thinking with Boston Jimmy. I'm like, dude, you got to get this thing lit.
Right.
Yeah. But he burns 20 seconds. He's buying time. And actually that 20 seconds could make or break you because Ryan, it came down to like you and him and milliseconds apart from each other.
It was several seconds.
Right? There was probably 15 to 20 seconds in between us at the end there, and so yeah, you don't think about it like, oh, that's going to make a difference. But when you play it back in your head, like, oh, could you have waited 10 more seconds for some of those puffs? Okay, well, that's the difference between winning and losing.
Mine's still smoking.
I don't feel terrible about mine.
Okay, I was going to ask you all these, there's, the lighting and then like what Rob's got going on me right now is like this canoeing horribleness. And, he's got, he's already done with the competition over here with how fast he's smoking. So you got all these different variables, right? You can't let it go out. You can't let it ash. What was the one that you were like, okay, this rule or this thing is my arch nemesis and I need to get through it?
Honestly, I thought it was going to be the ash, but I never had any of the cigars really, like it was not a flaky ash on any of the cigars. Like even when I got to that 40-minute time, like, I turned that cigar sideways and I had to shake that ash off. It was still substantial and holding
really
on. So yeah. So that's what I thought was going to be the hardest thing is I'm going to be sitting here balancing this ash that's ready to fall off.
Yeah.
But that cigar performed really well as far as the integrity of it.
I'm trying to remember if they had a shot of you specifically in the video because I just watched it again with my wife and my daughter. They were absolutely fascinated. We had to go back and watch the first one.
Oh, yeah.
And then watch the second one. And do you remember roughly how much of your cigar was burned by the time you got to 40 minutes?
I mean, it was...
Because your winning time was an hour and 30, hour 20.
I'll say this. Ryan and Boston Jimmy and one other guy, I think, I always looking at their cigars at that time and I was like, okay, these are the three.
Sure.
Like these guys got enough. If they can keep it lit, they got a good shot at the end here because I don't think anyone there felt comfortable smoking through the band at all.
No.
I mean, you burn it, it can get brown, it can discolor, but it cannot be burnt. And this is foil, so it's not like paper. It is like a more metallic foil, so it can sustain some heat.
Sure,
but maybe it's a paper foil. Anyways, it just can't be burnt.
When I was here in Buffalo, I think I ended up with like an hour 42 minutes, and after 40 minutes, I think I was probably halfway through the cigar, because I had started off with too fast of more pace than I needed. I had to learn how slow I could go as I was doing it, just because I kind of just went into it not very prepared and not expecting to win. And, it ended up where I was kind of able to pull it off, and it worked out for me. But that was the kind of thing too, like at the end here, I think second place went out at like a hour 35 minutes. So I'm like, well, am I trying to set a record, or am I trying to win the qualifier? At some point you kind of just say, okay, well, I'm putting it down because I don't need more time.
Sure.
But also, if I push it too far and burn the band, there's a 15-minute penalty. So let's say I go 10 minutes longer than second place, and then I get a penalty, he wins.
Yep.
That's just it. The penalty is so great on burning the band. It's ridiculous. You got to raise your hand.
Yep.
It's a Hail Mary. It is a Hail Mary. And it's the kind of thing where, if I'm in second place and I'm losing and I'm going to, sure, then it makes sense to try it.
But did those guys during the competition, during the finals, the world finals, did they smoke through the band? 3 hours?
A little bit, but not much.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the difference then between their technique of getting, are they doing the Jimmy Light? Are they just like,
it was night and day.
What the heck?
So one of the interesting things for me is kind of just the way that I was trying to smoke a cigar the longest. I had my way of doing it, and I really maximized that over all the events where I got better at it and I did a better job. But at the World Championships, I definitely hit the limit of my technique that I was trying, where I'm waiting a long time in between puffs, and I'm taking a very slow, deep draw to try to spread that cherry to the wrapper again, all the way around the cigar. And then I wait 5 minutes and hope it doesn't go out, and I'm watching the smoke to make sure. I think that's the way they were competing out there 5 years ago, before they started learning different techniques. And I'm watching them puff every minute, every 30 seconds, every minute and a half, and they're rotating the cigar, and they're kind of like squeezing the cap of the cigar a certain way to try to like restrict airflow to different sections. And it's like their technique is entirely different than mine, and really is like, I felt like the amateur that makes it to the final group at Augusta, where it's like everyone's rooting for you. No one thinks you'll win.
Absolutely.
So it was like, it was night and day.
I remember reading about this competition before I ever came to work for Boveda as an avid cigar smoker, and being blown away at some of the techniques that these guys would describe, to how they had figured out how to literally, like, I guess it would be almost like pyramid the burn down through the band.
Yeah.
Tunnel. So it's just coning down into the band.
I tried it once. Like, honestly, I ended up smoking a practice cigar before the U.S. finals, and then
just one?
I had a wedding in between.
Yeah.
Just one cigar.
Just one.
Semifinals.
That's fantastic.
He smokes one more cigar. What was the time on that one cigar practice?
I don't know. I was just experimenting, and it went out 5 times, and I was just trying things.
Sure.
But after Pittsburgh, I had smoked one other practice cigar before the finals, and I did try going under the band like that. And it was really just a matter of like, as that cherry begins to die down, it kind of dies. It's hotter in the center. And if you're just taking little puffs at that point, just keeping that center hot without letting it spread, that's kind of where you can try to just tunnel the thing on purpose. Sure. And I tried it for a bit, and then as soon as I got it too hot, it just went right out to the wrapper and burned it. So it's definitely something you can figure out and learn, but it doesn't taste good, and there's a lot of risk involved. So whether or not you're trying to do that for a time, it might make sense.
So we got a question from Adam. What cigar is it, and can we buy it? Yes, you can buy it. It is called a Mareva, Mareva, which is basically a petite Corona.
Is that the size name, the Mareva?
Yeah, that's the size name.
Gotcha.
It's more used in Cuban tobacco sizing. Like Cuban cigars don't always say petite Corona; they say Mareva.
Sure.
So that's where this comes from. It's basically a petite Corona to us. You can buy it. It's a little harder to find in the competition size. They make 2 other sizes, so you can just smoke the cigar because it is a really good blend.
It's a good
cigar. They
cigar.
make like a Robusto and like a little bit bigger size. I can't remember, but you can buy this cigar. You can go to rockypatel.com, find everything out about the cigar. You can go to CSWCnews.com and find everything out about the cigar there.
Yep.
To buy it, you probably, CSWC, Cigar Smoking World Championship News.com. There you can, up at the top, I think it says video, or
there it is, competition cigar.
It brings you all the way down. There's the cigar. You can just, click on that, discover more. There they have it, all the length, all the size. You really only have, 9 centimeters from the band, the bottom of the band to the foot of the cigar. You have a total of 5 and an eighth, but you're really losing a good portion of the cigar, at least over an inch of the cigar. So you're really only working with less than 4 inches here.
So Rob, Jimmy might be onto something, because look at your cigar.
I know
it's catching up.
It totally corrected itself, but now I'm just worried that I'm not getting a lot of smoke production.
Okay.
So now this idea of light and frequent puffs is interesting to me. And Ryan, you're saying that's how they competed over there.
Yeah, it was and that was the thing, is it was also interesting because a few different people had different techniques. It wasn't everybody doing the same standard technique, like this is the way you do it, because they've done it so much. But I think a lot of what they have learned and developed also comes from, I know there are slow pipe smoking competitions that are very popular in parts of Europe. And I believe Henrik, the guy from Sweden who won the competition, I believe he's competed in those slow pipe smoking competitions. And a lot of that is really just about like,
Oh Lord, pipe smoking in general is boring, and then slow smoke that you can't even see the progress. It's in a bowl. At least you can see the progress here, and there's some like spectatorness that you can do with this. Good Lord!
So it's one of those things where, I guess the thing that a lot of people develop techniques for is trying to control how the cigar burns at the cherry, where you're trying to almost isolate parts of it. Like you started the cigar on one side and now it's burning back to the other side. Imagine doing that for the whole length of the cigar, where you're trying to control which side burns more or less.
I can't tell at all what side is burning what, because I can't ash and I can't see anything. And I feel like I'm blind. I'm like 3 seconds from going out.
We're not too far apart.
Shut up. God, I tried this hard strategy. And you're like, oh, look at you caught up to me. Thanks a lot, dude. All right. So
you big fat jerk.
I want to talk about some of the craziness that happened during the cruise, because it was 2 days on land and 2 days via cruise, right?
So the way it kind of worked is when we got there on Friday, we ended up boarding the ship, and we had a really nice evening there. With a dinner and meeting everybody, and then partying on the deck of the ship. And then we stayed on the ship, and they had quarters for us all to stay at. It was absolutely beautiful, yacht. The quarters were just really nice and comfortable. It took a little bit to get used to actually being on a boat overnight sleeping. That's not something I've done a lot. But when we did the competition on Saturday, our plan was to try to do it on the boat, but it ended up where it was just, the weather wasn't going to really work out very well. So we ended up going on land to a nice hotel where we ended up doing the competition and the dinner. And then from there, the rest of the time was spent out on the boat.
So when you're at the hotel or even any of the other locations for smoking, Do they give you designated chairs? Are competitors like looking for the ceiling to see if there's maybe an HVAC vent?
They turned off
the play. They turn it off.
So
right?
it's because as soon as we sat down, you could just feel it on the table where you're like in that hotel room specifically, that event venue. It was pretty obvious that there were just spots where the AC was blowing straight down and you felt it, and it was going to be a problem if they didn't do that. So
didn't they do the same thing at the semifinals? Like each location was allowed to turn off their ventilation.
Yeah.
And AC for that purpose. Because
and that's the thing. I don't know what they did at Burn, and I'm not sure what they did at Buffalo Cigars, because upstairs here, like where we held the event, there's not really ceiling fans or anything that would get in the way. It's a bit more passive of a system. So that might have been something where they didn't even mess with it here in Buffalo.
Sure.
All right. So the craziness of just being on a yacht and kind of having all these things. I saw some videos. One, the wine and the alcohol and the cigars were being passed around very liberally, right?
Yes, they were.
There was a $200 bottle of, was it Chivas Regal?
Yeah, I believe so. As much of a shame as it is for me to be on the trip, I don't drink, so I didn't even really partake. Okay. Now I was enjoying just doing some snifting as far as just bringing the aroma and smelling it, and some of the brandies and the Chivas and all that other stuff. It was very interesting, but for me, it was all food and olive oil and all those kinds of goodies they had out there.
Awesome. So, but I mean, like one of them, they were doing whatever the pipette is, like they had it in, and then like that's how much you got. Was that the expensive bottle, the $200 bottle?
Yeah.
And that was the one you were, and that was paired with a specific Rocky Patels cigar, correct?
Interesting.
Yeah. So they had pairings with cigars and with foods at times too. So like at some point with that, during that tasting, we had some really awesome Croatian chocolates that had like, citrus peels and nuts and all these other things in them, and they were just, I bought some of those in the city on my way home just because that stuff is great.
Man, you're speaking my language, chocolate. You're speaking my chocolate.
You're speaking my chocolate.
You're speaking my chocolate. Now the other part that I thought was very interesting, and I think Benny, one of our international salesmen, was going over a Rocky Patel number 6, and he had dried out one and put like colored the 6 red, and then the other one was humidified with Boveda. So both of them were humidified with Boveda, but one got dry down to like 0.5 water activity, which is like, half a point is like really, like most water activity where cigars are at is between like 10 and 15. So when you go down to like less than 1, you're really drying all the oils and sugars out of the cigar.
Sure.
And that means like all of the flavor of the cigar is gone. It's like taking a bottle of wine and opening it and just like letting it sit there for too long and then coming back to it and saying, oh, I wonder why it tastes like vinegar. Here, did you smoke that cigar side by side, right?
Yep.
What did you think? I mean, like, what was the flavor that you were like, whoa, this is totally different?
Yeah, it's probably maybe half an inch in. I think I had identified which cigar was which based on the flavor, because that dried out cigar that was then kind of brought back, it just had an acrid harshness to the smoke.
Sure.
It wasn't like when you smoke a cigar that's too young and it's that ammonia flavor. It wasn't like that at all, but it was just the texture in the mouth and the scratchiness, that irritation that you might get from smoke sometimes was much worse in that cigar that had been through some poor humidity control versus the one that was stable. So that to me, I had never smoked the number 6 before that, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to tell, but like you could pretty much pick the one pretty soon in where you're just like, yeah, this one doesn't, it doesn't taste like it's performing very well. Like the burn was fine, but the flavor just wasn't there, and it just wasn't hitting right.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So the oils and sugars are gone, and now you can't taste them. That's crazy.
it's a good point where, like, if you had given it a few more months to stabilize, could it have gotten better? Maybe, but I tend to think you do lose something when a cigar dries out sometimes, because, you know, I've had some cigars in the past where they were very old cigars and they didn't taste very good, because I don't know what happened for the 15 or 20 years since that cigar was rolled. And it could have gotten dried to a bone, and then somebody brings them back up and sells them like they were perfect.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm not interested in spending a copious amount of money on, like, you know, these are 1950 Cubans. It's like, dude, Boveda wasn't around back then, so who's been keeping these for you know?
And it also makes you kind of appreciate if you have the resources or time to do some aging of cigars, where you can kind of take a step back and be like, you know what, it might be worth it for me to buy this box of cigars that I know was well kept, and, you know, I'm going to keep it longer and make sure that it has 10 good years of aging on it, versus just trusting wherever that cigar came from in the past.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there are oils and sugars that just evaporate and just completely are gone.
Pardon me.
And you can't get them back, no matter what, you know, no matter how much you rehumidify, because those cigars were rehumidified to the point where it would burn well, like you said, but the flavor's gone. Once the flavor's gone, it's gone.
Benjamin gave a great presentation where he went over a lot of the stuff in terms of the percent moisture content and everything else involved with kind of long-term storage and just safekeeping of cigars. And there is a lot of things that happen over time with the cigar that we don't really understand, because nobody's putting these things under electron microscopes and trying to figure it all out. But it's
not
you know,
until
whether it's I was going to say whether it's you know, oxidation or just chemical breakdown, or whether you're losing oils that you can never get back. You know,
that's what we're finding.
Lose something.
Yeah.
We're finding you're losing oils that you can never get back. And that's really what you're smoking when you burn a cigar, is oils and sugars.
Yeah, they attach to the smoke, and that's what you taste.
It's crazy. Anyways, okay. What else do we want to know? Did you, like, when you were, obviously didn't have a lot of practice, but you made it to the finals still, did you have any other strategy that you were, like, focused on other than the timing? Was that the only strategy that you could think of at the time?
That was really it. And just when I was trying to keep the cigar upright. Like right now you're holding that cigar upright because you're worried about the ash falling off. But in my head, I was kind of thinking of it like a chimney, where I wanted to keep that heat at the top so that I wasn't, you know, cooking the tobacco underneath too much and drying it out early. You know, I figured holding it upright is going to slow down the progression. And then when I was taking that puff, I was really just trying to take like the most slow, gentle, long puff I could make. So, you know, I would be taking a puff for 30 seconds, just like sipping on it like the slowest milkshake you've ever had, and just trying to spread that cherry all the way across, but not too deep. So it wasn't like if you just puffed really hard, I can imagine you're pulling that heat down. So that was really the only technique and strategy I employed, and kind of just learning how long you could let that thing almost go out before trying to kickstart it back to life again, and just riding that balance. And a lot of that was just paying attention to the smoke output of the cigar. And when I was out in Croatia, it was a lot harder to see the smoke on the cigar just due to the lighting in the room and everything like that. And I noticed a lot of the other competitors there who were a lot more experienced are using their palms to just measure the heat as a more reliable way.
I'm out.
Whoa.
Yep, just went out.
And he's done.
Okay, we're at 40 minutes, but we didn't start lighting right away.
Yep.
So Boston Jimmy said that he would take this cigar and put it next to his palm and then kind of count how hot his palm got.
And that was some of the thing, like that was a lot of the work the judges had to do, was because they basically said, you can't touch the burn line, you can't mess with the cigar. But you had a lot of competitors doing things like this because they wanted to feel the heat on their palm. And, you know, as a judge, you have to now determine if they're touching the burr line while they're doing things like this with the, you know, that's how they're holding the cigar. And it was a lot of work for them.
I can feel the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel that heat.
And that's where, for me, visually, when I was in Buffalo or Pittsburgh for the finals,
I could just watch the smoke come off because I had a nice dark background and
Right.
the air wasn't moving around too much. And I could really just see, like, wait until that smoke almost stopped coming out.
Yeah, my competitor has a nice black shirt, so I'm using him against.
Yep. and there were competitors that did that with me out in Croatia, where they were using like the tablecloth trying to watch it through there. You might see that in some of the photos. But then there were other ones that I don't think they ever looked at the smoke once. And it was all based on that feeling of heat on their hand or palm that they were using to try to figure out how hot that cherry was.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
God, there's so much that goes into it, but it's actually quite fun. We're at 41 minutes. We didn't start lighting right away, but I'm actually impressed at how little this has burned compared to like my other practices of not lighting it. Like I did what you guys always did, is light the whole thing on fire and let it buck.
Yep.
It does actually gain you some time.
Sure.
Definitely does. It's risky, but it gains you time.
I'm just impressed at how even your burn is now.
Well, you know,
pretty much. I mean, you got a little bit.
I'm hiding some shame over here. So overall, Ryan, Julie says, was there one judge watching each smoker? That's a great question. Did you have one-on-one judges? Did they have tables? What was going on?
Yeah, we ended up having, I think, one judge per table, and there were 4 tables. So we had 4 judges working with everybody, and there were maybe like 4 to 5 people per table.
Okay.
So once some of the competitors started exiting the competition, you would end up having more judges per competitor at that point. So they would all kind of share the responsibility. The judges did a great job as well. They did a very good job. There was a couple points where they had to step in on certain things. And also for me, they helped out with some of the parts, like at that beginning where you get to choose whether or not to replace a cigar or not and things like that. Like all the rules around that, I wanted to make sure that no mistakes were made. And the judges were very helpful to just make sure that they weren't there to catch you doing something wrong if they could help you do it right. It wasn't like they weren't your opponent. They were just trying to make sure nobody was breaking the rules on purpose.
Sure.
Was there anyone that turned in their cigar and said, no, I don't want to smoke this one?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
You did? How many times?
Just once.
Just once.
You know, I had picked out my first cigar and I was just kind of feeling it and it felt very sturdy. I liked the way it was constructed. And then I just noticed it was kind of dark in the room and I noticed a small little hole in the wrapper. And you know, sometimes there's a little crack in the wrapper and you can see the binder underneath. I couldn't see the binder underneath. So it could have just been a fold in the binder, or it could have been that hole went into the binder. And I couldn't tell. And I even, asked, can I use a light just to inspect this? And, kind of said, okay, well, this hole's enough where I picked a different cigar. And, that worked out very well for me. I felt I had a great performing cigar in Croatia. When I was in Pittsburgh, I remember I felt the cigar and I thought about turning it in for another. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not going to win. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to smoke this. Don't worry about it. And then now I think back and I'm like, well, if I turned it in for another cigar, Jimmy might have won.
Yes. Oh, isn't that crazy? You're like, you don't know nothing. Like this is all hypothesis, educated guesses.
Like
we don't know. We don't know nothing. That's what I'm saying.
Some of the cigars will let you smoke it. Some of them will fight back. And we had national champions there in Croatia who were out after 15 minutes.
No way.
They just had a cigar that ended up going terribly wrong on them. And
so I have a question, because I thought about this as I was watching, specifically because Boston Jimmy seemed like such a great character. Like he just had a great presence about him. When you watch poker world championships, there are some competitors that definitely do some gamesmanship. Like they really work their competitors over. Like they're just really trying to get under their skin. Did you feel like in any of the competitions, from the international one down to your local in Buffalo there, where people were playing head games with other competitors, or is everybody pretty much internally focused, worried about their own cigar?
I think everyone's pretty internally focused. I didn't notice anything like that. And I think part of it too is that, there's kind of, I think with anything in cigars, like there's a lot of kind of just good nature, friendliness involved when you're with a bunch of people who like the same thing you do. And
you don't see it as much where it's like, yeah, you know, I don't know too many professional poker games where that's the case, where people are just in it for the camaraderie of poker. No, they're there to destroy somebody and take all their money. So it's,
sure. Yeah.
You know,
oh my God, I think I'm freaking out.
You know, might there have been some situations where somebody like, you know, might have been silly about stuff or something like that. Oh,
stupid cigar. That's the beauty of this competition. Oh, look at that. That tunneled pretty good.
It did. Look at that.
Wow.
So we have a great question from Michael Gomez. Wish I had swapped mine out. LOL.
I think I remember that, Michael. I know he was kind of frustrated, I think, too, with like, that.
Where did he compete? Did he compete in Pittsburgh?
I think in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I believe. You know, he was one of the semifinalists from Orlando, I believe, or somewhere, maybe not Orlando, but somewhere in Florida, I believe.
I'm definitely tempted to give this a try next year.
Oh, I'm hoping we get to host a little competition here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't know. This has been a lot of fun. I hope all of you out there watching go back and watch episodes 1 and 2. Oh, wait, Michael was from Chicago. Oh, yes. Thank you, Michael. Bruce is saying do it. We're doing it.
Do it.
I mean, well, like you said, Ryan, like I'm not gonna win. Who really cares? And then you end up winning, and you and your wife go on like a third honeymoon because you've already been on like 2 honeymoons. Like the Pittsburgh trip was like another honeymoon for you.
That was our second little mini honeymoon, and you know that was getting too far into it right there. Like I had no plans on winning the qualifier. Like I thought I would do good just because I smoke a ton of cigars, and I know, you know, I'm not going to make mistakes that some people might make, but
sure.
I didn't think I'd win in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, my time was 140 something, and there were guys from Naples that had done like 2 hours.
Sure.
So I'm like, why would I expect to win?
Yeah.
And then part of that is just, I think a lot of people, when they're practicing, they might be saying, well, I know I can smoke this cigar in 2 hours and 5 minutes. So they'll sit down and they'll do the exact thing they need to do to smoke in 2 hours and 5 minutes. And if that cigar isn't going to give it to you, it goes out.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of have to find that pace that the cigar will let you smoke it and maximize it however you can. And,
sure.
You know, that happens where a lot of people get caught out because they're just trying to stretch it too far, and, you know, it goes out on them. And there's something to be said about kind of like just not thinking you're going to win, where you can actually do a lot better job than somebody who's more anxious about it with the expectation of winning. And
absolutely.
For me, it just worked out that day.
I'm with you, Ryan. I think honestly in any kind of competition, and I used to compete as a singer, and I remember I always tried to tell myself at every competition, you know what? It really doesn't matter. Just have fun, keep everything really chill, really light, be as encouraging as you can to everyone else around you. And if you win, you're going to feel 100 times better than if you were nervous and anxious. And even if you didn't win, who cares? You had a great time. I think that's a much better way of going through life. I like that.
Absolutely. Good point. Julie asks, does your wife smoke cigars?
Yes, she does.
Yeah, she's at the competition.
Yep.
Barely.
She enjoys her she enjoys her acid blondies and some of the other acids. So
yeah.
Your reaction to your wife's screams during that competition were hilarious. There's a couple times where you saw Ryan go like this. You know, he did the Ross Geller where it was like, take it down a notch. It was just perfect. It was hilarious. I couldn't stop watching your wife get excited. What did Val say here? Val's got, did you puff through the cigar at all to maintain the light?
I'm assuming he means blow out.
And that is against the rules.
Oh, it is.
Because they're worried that
you can't blow through
they're worried that by exhaling through the cigar, you're going to be trying to add moisture to the tobacco.
Sure.
So that was one of the things the judges were keeping an eye on me for, because when I'm sitting there for 20 seconds taking this extremely slow puff, they couldn't really see which direction the smoke was going. You know, there wasn't any smoke coming off because I was drawing in the whole time. But to them, that was something they were worried about, where they wanted to really keep an eye on what I was doing, because, you know, my technique was just kind of different than everyone else's. So they just had to worry about different parts of it. Whereas the other guys who are sitting here, like this, they had to worry about, are they touching the cigar the wrong way? For me, the whole time I'm just holding it like this. So there was no worries at all about me touching the cigar the wrong way.
Right.
Ryan, I think you'll appreciate this as I watched the second video with my 17-year-old daughter, and you and your wife said you were going to get another mini honeymoon in Croatia. And my daughter looks at me and goes, I don't think you can call that a mini honeymoon.
Listen, it was only like 4 days, 3 nights, but I think by the end of the first day, we're like, we are coming back to Croatia, whether or not I ever make it to the finals again, just because it was just such a beautiful place. And everybody was just so generous and hospitable and just really, really kind people everywhere we went. And, I can definitely see it was one of those places where as you're walking around the city, you see tourists from tons of different countries where it's just like, there's Swedish people to your left and Japanese people to your right. And you're like, they get it. That's why they are coming. They know. And it's a great place.
We forget that Croatia is literally just on the other side of the Adriatic, right? From Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very similar coastline. It's spectacularly beautiful.
Yeah.
Like spectacularly beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, that surprised me the most. It's easy to think about, certain areas out there where once you get into the mountains, it's a very different kind of place. But yeah, in that coastal area, it was just Mediterranean paradise. And, just on our walk from when we got into Split Center, you're walking around Diocletian's castle that was built in 300 AD. And the stones are worn and they're like shot. They have like a reflection like glass because people have walked on them for 1700 years. And you're like, okay,
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like very special place.
Does make you realize how much of American culture is so new. I mean, it's really, really young.
Super new.
Yep.
Out there, a home built in the 1800s is a new build.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy. Here, that would be like, I don't know. That's a little old. Does it have electricity and indoor plumbing?
Yes.
I got to ask, what was it going to? Oh, I wanted to mention, if you guys want to see some of these photos, you just need to go over to Club Mareva on Facebook. Mareva, Mareva. Club Mareva on Facebook. That's the kind of unofficial but official. There's no Cigar Smoking World Championship Facebook page. There's a bunch of different clubs that might have that title, but Club Mareva is where you're going to find Ryan in photos. You're going to see all the videos. You're going to see all the photos and the story. And again, you can see all the story and the coverage at Cigar Smoking World Championship. So it's CSWCnews.com. There's articles in there. Both of our videos are in there, 1 and 2. I'm sure Marco will post this one as just a quick interview. But again, Ryan, are you going to do the competition again?
I hope so. I mean, the way I look at it, if it means that I got to drive to Pittsburgh to do it next year, let's say, that's okay for me. Like, that's not too far a drive from Buffalo. So I got a feeling I'll do it again. If anything, I can't wait to get back out there and see Marco and everyone from Club Mareva again. Really, really great people. And, you meet a lot of people out there who become friends very quickly. And I'm glad to have met them all and hope to get out there again soon.
That's the best part, honestly.
And what would you tell somebody if they were like, what piece of advice would you give somebody that wanted to do this competition?
That's a good question. I would say that, find what technique works for you that you're comfortable with and just start pushing further and further as far as what you can do to get more out of that cigar and to slow down that smoking experience. Because if I was to sit down and watch how, Henrik from Sweden smokes the cigar, the guy who won, I never would have been able to enter or even do what he did. His technique was such a personal technique that he developed figuring out what works for him. And I was able to get 5th place out in Croatia with my technique that I found works best for me. And, Am I more limited? Can I get 3 hours out of a cigar? No, but I can still get 5th place in a competition with the people who can.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Good job, man.
Your end time was how long?
2 hours and 4 minutes. I ended up beating all the records from the U.S. for this year and set the best U.S. time for 2021.
And then
Giddy up.
The world record was how long?
Oh, I think they had a 3 hour, 8 minute time or something insane.
Sorry, I mean the competition that you were in, the one where you got 2 hours and 4 minutes.
What was the winning
time? The winner finished at 2 hours and 42 minutes, I think about.
That's all he had to go because everyone else had dropped out.
Yeah, but second place pushed it to like that 2 hour, 40 something minute. And then, third and fourth place were probably between, at 2:15.
Was he close to the band then at that 2:40, or did he still have quite a bit left?
He was right at it. I don't know if he had really started tunneling or not, but he was kind of probably preparing to try to smoke under the band at that point. I think Boris from Poland, who came in second place, I believe he might have been trying to smoke under the band by that point. And he had it going for a bit before it went out. And
did anyone burn the band and incur penalty minutes?
That I'm not sure. I think it might have been close, but I don't think anybody did. I know somebody had browned the band, but I don't think anybody burnt it enough to get a penalty.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh, so many questions, so many different things going on. I just love the fact. I love the fact that it's just crazy like that.
I love it.
It's like, if you've never heard of it, it sounds ridiculous, and it is. And that's your joy.
That's the best part of it.
And that's the thing. It's like, it's like anything. Like, why are there people online that have 10,000 stream viewers watching them try to beat Mario Brothers the fastest? Because it's funny and interesting to people who like that sort of thing. And with cigars, you know what? It doesn't have to even be this cigar. Just you and your friends sit down with the same cigar and try to see who can smoke it the longest without it going out.
Yeah, hit Adam's question here is great.
Makes a valid point.
This is okay. So Adam says, can you explain the band burning rules? If you smoke through the band and it adds 30 to 40 minutes, wouldn't that be worth the 50-minute penalty? The key here. Yeah, go Ryan. Yeah,
No, I was just going to say, if you do burn the band, they basically end your competition at that time. So it would be as soon as a judge notices that you're burning the band, they're going to call your time and you're ended then. And then they add 15 minutes to the 15-minute penalty. So
wow.
When we say, well, let's be real clear. When we say smoke through the band, that just means making the cigar tunnel so it doesn't burn the wrapper, thus burning the band. So you're really not smoking through the band. I know that sounds confusing, but it is. You're smoking underneath the band, maybe is what we should say.
Correct.
Can anyone really do that with a great sense of combustion and a great sense of accuracy? No, it's very much in the dark, not really quite sure what's going on. You can taste the filler is different than the whole thing combined, but that's the key is you can't just keep going and occur the penalty minutes and call it good because you're still going. You end up stopping because you burn. And you do need to self-regulate. You got to raise your hand if you did, burn the band.
Kind of like golf in that regard.
Yeah,
it's a lot of honor and doing what's right.
Yeah. Yep. So fun stuff. Again, Ryan, thank you so much for taking time out on your Friday, having a cigar with us, telling about your journey across the world over to Split, Croatia, enjoying the Cigar Smoking World Championships. Congratulations. Happy marriage to you and your wife, Rachel, and appreciate you guys so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you both again. It's been a pleasure to be here and just appreciate everything you did to make these events possible and to give me this kind of opportunity to be able to go out there and do that. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Everyone, if you like this, leave comments below, subscribe, hit the bell to ring. We do this every other Friday. Next week, we got a brand new box press coming out next Friday. Appreciate you all. Have a great weekend. And if anyone's deer hunting, go out there and get yourself a deer.